It's 1:30. I'd like to call the November 16th, 2015 meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Commission to order. Roll call, Commissioner Witcher.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Littlefield, not present. Commissioner White.
Present.
Commissioner Hale.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Schuline.
Here.
Commissioner Miller.
Here, sir.
Commissioner George, not present. And Commissioner Yonkel.
Here.
Thank you very much. Can we have a motion concerning the minutes of the October 19, 2015 meeting, please?
I'll move they be approved.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Schuline. Do we have a second?
I will second, sir.
We have a second from Commissioner Witcher. Any discussion? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner Witcher, to approve item 2, the minutes from October 19th. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Okay, we go on to item 3, reports on licensed taxi and record services. Sir, do you have anything for us?
Afternoon, Commissioners. Excuse me, I'm a little under the weather these days with this weather. This is the monthly report for September. On the driver's permits on taxis, we had 11 new ones, 39 renews, 1 exempt, 1 replacement, 24 passed on vehicle inspections, 1 failed. On enforcement actions, have 5 investigations, 1 field inspection, 4 citations. On limousines, 3 new, 3 renewed. On vehicles, 3 passed, 1 failed. On carriages, 1 renewed. On inspections, vehicle inspections, 2 passed. On pedicabs, 3 new, and vehicle inspections, 2 passed. And on shuttles, 3 renewed and 1 passed on vehicle inspections. Have any questions?
Anybody have anything for the Sergeant? All right, thank you very much for your time, sir. Okay, we go on to item 4, the consent docket. Can we have staff input first, please?
Okay, you've got 2 items on the consent docket. One concerns renewal of, or the annual renewal of the city's current record contracts. In that particular case, the staff recommendation is approval, or that the commission approve the item and send a recommendation to the city council to renew their contracts. Item B is a request for stop control on Southeast 79th Street at Caden Trails Drive. The applicant has requested that item to be struck from the agenda. They'll be making a new submission, so the staff recommendation on that item is to strike it. So a move to approve the consent docket will be to forward a recommendation to renew record contracts to the City Council and to strike consideration of item B.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning the consent? Well, hold on a second. Is there anybody here to speak against an item on the consent docket? Okay, can we have a motion concerning the consent docket?
I move approval of the consent docket with staff recommendations.
We have a motion from Commissioner Witcher to approve item 4, the consent docket, with staff recommendations.
Second.
And we have a second by Commissioner Hale. Any discussion on the consent docket? Okay, a motion to approve item 4 by Commissioner Witcher with staff recommendation, second by Commissioner Hale. Votes, please. Okay, item is approved. We go on now to item 5, items for individual consideration. We go to 5A, Jasmine Enterprises, LLC, doing business as OKC Green Taxi, to consider an application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity from Jasmine Enterprises, LLC, doing business as OKC Green Taxi, to operate 150 vehicles in taxi service. Anybody here to speak on this? I believe we have Quasi Ismail wanted to speak. Are you here, sir? May I have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes, sir.
My name is Qazi Islam. If you guys need any questions, I'm here. That's what I'm here for. So,
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Carl, you also wanted to speak on item 5A. If I could have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes, sir.
My name is Carl Gaskins. My address is 1424 Northwest 28th Street, Oklahoma City. And I'm here, I just want to say we should not let Green Taxi come back. They've done some bad things. I think you're aware of the problem they had with their insurance and everything and what was done there. They're just trying to come back. Nothing has changed. Same address, same people, same everything. Considering what was done before, I don't think there's any good reason we should believe that all of a sudden they're going to just change everything and do it all right. It was a serious deal with the insurance. It put a lot of people at risk, and it just should not be allowed. There's got to be more repercussions than saying, okay, we're going to take your permit and you can come right back and get it again. It's the same company, nothing's changed. Maybe the name, that's about it. So we should, not have them in the city operating. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Sir, can we have staff input, please?
Okay, you've got our recommendations that appear on page 3 of your staff report. As we've got a complete application from the applicant, we're recommending approval of the application for a certificate of public convenience and necessities presented in the report.
Thank you. Can we have a motion concerning item 5A?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the application be denied.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Schuline to disapprove item 5A. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hale. Do we have discussion on item 5A? Well, I do. I mean, do you want to go? Do you have something? Somebody? You have something?
Well, I was going to, clearly I think we're all uncomfortable with this. It does seem to be a complete and an appropriate application. From our counselor's standpoint, is this at the discretion of the commission, and if the applicant doesn't like it, they have recourse, or what are the next steps?
The ordinance states that the discretion is yours to approve or deny a claim based upon your discretion regarding the ability of the applicant to comply with the ordinance and its requirements. The next steps are for the company to either, they did not take their opportunity to appeal your decision to revoke and they can continue to come before the commission, and attempt to regain their license if they wish.
Ma'am?
In the September meeting, the license was revoked, right? What is the time frame on that revocation?
Revocation means that they do not have a license any further. It is not like a suspension where there's a time limit placed upon it. The license is taken away unless the owner appealed the decision. The appeal was not made, so they do not have a license.
So let me get to the point. That's a true point. 2 months ago, we had our review, and we revoked the license. Last month, this application came forward. There was some concern about insurance, I believe, and that was the main factor in us disapproving it, was our concern about the insurance. So my question to you, sir, is, has anything changed in the last month, especially concerning insurance, that could come to us for information?
No, insurance been paid every month since then. It's been almost 3 months now. Yeah, and our new, the reason we couldn't get the insurance because we had a couple of wrecks in it. That's why nobody would insure us. So I had to change the owner's name. I had to get a different owner to get a new insurance on it.
Okay, so since last month, has anything changed with this application? Or is this the exact same application as last month?
Exact same application. I have 5 cars there right now that's insured, ready to go. Only thing I have to do is, get it inspected and get a license from you guys.
Okay, well then, if you're ready to ask, but my question would be to the sergeant, if we're satisfied over in your section, and to the counselor, are we satisfied that everything's good on insurance? Sergeant?
At this time, the sergeant hasn't reviewed the insurance itself and or had any reason to review the vehicles since there has not been a license given back to this company. However, when reviewing the insurance certificate, the insurance company did validate that this is a valid certificate based upon the information presented to us.
And that's in this last month or from the previous month?
I validate the previous application, it was validated, and when this application came forward, it was validated again.
So it was validated again when this came through that they have insurance.
That this insurance that is presented is valid,
Correct.
yes.
Sergeant, do you have any input, or is the counselor stuff?
She's correct.
Okay? So,
Okay, but
over to Commissioner Hill.
this is the problem I have, because last month, we did have a certificate, and it said specified vehicles. When we researched that, it came out that you do have 5 insured, but you also had 3 that were uninsured. And what's the total number of vehicles that you have in your fleet?
At the moment, I have 5 ready to go. The others I have, but I don't have any drivers for it. So whenever we get drivers, we put insurance on it.
Okay, well, the titles that were furnished to the commission today, you aren't the registered owner.
No, we have owner self-drive, basically, you know. And
Okay.
company owns cars, but I have cars, but they're not ready to go. They're at the shop. I have given him the list. He has all the list, and
Your certificate says specified vehicles, specified autos. Do you have a list from your insurance company stating exactly what?
yes, they have.
Could
They
you
get the
furnish that to
titles and
us?
everything, and
Could we have a copy of the list, please?
I don't have it with me. I have it on my phone. Can I show it to you?
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, one of the titles, the very first one, is a 2003 Lincoln, and I don't show this on your insurance.
No, I took that off.
I need a current list of what vehicles are insured. That's the
That's the current list, sir.
Okay. Are the titles that you gave us for the packet current?
Yeah.
Okay, then where's the 2003 Lincoln? No, sir? Excuse me. This is the problem we had in September and also in October, just to be up straight. I think that if you're going to, this is my own take, but if you're going to come before the commission, you need to have everything documented and ready to go without this confusion about what is insured and what isn't.
Your requirements are 5 vehicles, right?
Insured vehicles.
To get it going, and that's what I presented even last month, you know. And then somebody questioned that we have other vehicles, how come they're not insured? The reason being is we can't put the cars in if we don't have drivers.
Okay, but what you just showed me now, you gave us a title for
Yeah.
2003 Lincoln.
Yeah.
It's not on your insurance.
No.
So if that's in your service, then you've got an uninsured vehicle, which disqualifies you to get a permit.
The Lincoln,
That's correct.
I got to check if that's insured or not at the moment. I'm not sure. I took it out because we have different, another driver came in. That's why I put his car in, because he's ready to go as soon as I get a license from you guys.
Okay.
Then the only thing I have to do is, you know, I send him the list already, and then I can just go to him and inspect it and.
That means the list has
drive.
changed since he sent it to me when I took the titles of the 5 owners, when I researched them, being the legal. 3 of them were drivers that used to drive for him were the fleet owners, and 2 of them, they were not in my database, they were just owners. So it means one of them has changed that you found out, Commissioner Hill.
All right, so let me just make sure we understand what is actually needed. It's my understanding they have to say that they're going to have 5 vehicles, they have to show 5 vehicles, and they have to have insurance that would cover those 5 vehicles. And then how the process goes is, as they add vehicles into service, they notify their insurance company, and then they notify you. And as they take vehicles out of service, they notify their insurance company, and they notify you to keep all the records current. Is that correct? So all we have to do is say they've met the requirement, the drug testing and all that kind of stuff, that they do have insurance, and that they do have 5 vehicles, or that they will have 5 vehicles up and running by the time they start taking phone calls. I'm not saying they got to have the 5 titles. I think we've even done one where we've had 1 or 2 titles, and that's it. And that they said that they'll have 5 vehicles by the time they start to operate. So I think we just need to make sure that we're clear on what we need to do here, which is we have a cab company. They say they're going to have 5 vehicles. They know it. It's in their system. They're going to have insurance for it. Once we say go, then they need to just clean it all up and make sure that the vehicles in service match what we show vehicles in service, and their insurance company has that also.
So I think what you're saying is that this commission, knowing that what's listed on the certificate of insurance does not match the other components, the titles that are shown in the application, knowing that, we could still approve it, and that would be all within our proper operation.
That's my opinion. Of course, we go to council and staff and make sure that we're correct on that. I think, ma'am?
So answering your question, which was, let me just rephrase and make sure I understood what you're asking, whether or not the 5 titles are a requirement. Is that summarized very quickly, or are you asking?
Sure, that's one way to
Okay.
look at it. Do we need to have those titles? Do we need to
titles-
have a way of checking that the vehicles that are being made part of the application have valid insurance?
There are, what we can validate and what is a requirement is having the proper insurance, of having the proper limits and having the proper amount of vehicles insured. Those 2 items have been verified by their insurance company. Now, whether or not those titles are required when they come before us of whichever vehicles they utilize, that has not been a requirement, no. It is an addition that this applicant provided to you and seems to have created confusion in what they're actually covering by their insurance. So I cannot speak for the applicant, but that...
I think I understand what we need to do to meet our obligations as a traffic commission.
Okay, so going over here.
It's, the reason I have such a hang-up is your license was revoked due to a certificate of insurance that was not correct at all.
Yeah.
It was, in fact, correct me if I'm wrong, was there some changes made to that certificate that made it look like it was valid when in reality it was not?
Correct. There was 2 documents like that.
Okay. And that's why there's such a hang-up
Yeah,
about
I
the
understand.
insurance. And that's why I seem to be steadfast about making sure that if you're going to come before us,
Yeah.
I mean, it's your opportunity to tell us which
Definitely.
vehicles. And if you make a change, can't his submission be amended?
I
mean-
talked to Megan Armstrong about it, and I was supposed to email Stuart here, but I just never got a chance to get the title to him.
Okay.
And-
But if it's that big of a deal, then it needs to be that big of a deal.
I know, but the requirements were not the title. That's why I didn't think it was a big deal on it. That was my whole understanding. It was like, if we have 5 cars, he's the one that actually, in the end of the line, looks at it and approves it and disapproves it. So that's why, as long as we have everything going here, that's why I didn't really thought about it that way. I do apologize.
Right, and the key is, 2 months ago, there was a big concern that
Yes.
went back a couple months and was all found out. Last month, we just weren't comfortable with the insurance. That's why I believe we said no. So what you're saying right now is you have valid insurance, you know the process of making sure that whatever vehicles you have in operation are actually stated to the city, and they're tagged, and they're everything that they're supposed to be, and that your insurance company will know vehicles that are in, vehicles that are out, exactly what's under the insurance.
Yes, sir. I can, if we get approved today, then I can give it to him tomorrow,
Right.
all 5 cars, and he can give you the option for tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't want to throw a wrench here, but while we have you, and while we're talking about the applicant that is before us, the application, I have a couple of questions for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me check my notes here, make sure I'm staying on task. So are the pictures of the vehicles in the application the way they look as you previously operated?
Yes, ma'am.
The green cab? Nothing changed?
Nothing
Green
has
car, red stripe, white letters on the doors?
Everything's the same.
Everything's the same. So that brings me to my first question. If you were a brand-new applicant, I would ask you, I'm just treating
Yes.
at face value, first time I'd ever seen you here. Does the name of the cab need to be evident? Because I feel like it's difficult to read the name of your company on the vehicle.
Okay.
It looks like it says OKC Taxi. And then if you turn your head this way and you look in little letters and there's a script that says green. The unique color scheme, the unique name is there for a lot of reasons.
Yes.
And I feel like it's very hard to discern the name of the company and the scheme that you've currently got. So as a brand new applicant, if this was a brand new application, I would challenge you to get that green a little more clear because it's not clear.
Okay.
This is just me talking.
right.
There are others here who don't get as hung up in the details, hopefully, as I do. So then, as I'm looking through the application and reading it, I see, like in the drug test form, let's go to the drug policy. Your application, it says Jesmond Enterprise, and then in parentheses as the company name, OKC Green Taxi, right? So we're going to stay consistent with OKC Green Taxi. On your drug application form, on the drug policy form, let's see, page 11 on this document. Go up to, right in here. In the body of this, so the title says Jesmond Enterprises, the heading, and then you look in the body of this paragraph right here, it says Causey Enterprises. So I'm just wondering if maybe that was an accidental overlook. Okay,
It was
all right.
overlooked. I do apologize.
So that would probably need to be changed
Yes.
to your company name. All right, so we're in the thinking of the company name. Let's keep going. Go to page 12, all right, right here, the header, Jesmond Enterprise LLC, doing business as OKC Taxi. It really should be OKC Green Taxi. If we're going to call it OKC Green Taxi, the cab you should be able to see OKC Green Taxi. I like details. I'm not trying to bog you down.
I got you.
So that I'm just kind of wondering if maybe, and the OKC, the DBA OKC Taxi is kind of consistent through there, that you don't see Green Taxi in that header anywhere. I'm just pulling for you here to get an accurate, good, solid application where there's not any of the things that we need to sort of clean up in the process. Let's get it clean and then present it. That's where I would be on it. So there wasn't a single question in that, I suppose. But I feel like there's some details in there on your behalf maybe you want to tidy up. Not to slow you down or bog you down, but there, you kind of want it accurate.
I know.
That way that their questions can be then put aside and it's accurate and complete and right and good. Move on down the road. Those are my concerns with the application, the detail as we have it in front of us.
Okay, so to staff, could this, if this was an approved item, eventually could this be cleaned up later as an administrative issue?
Administrative issues, except for increases to their fleet size, can be administratively updated with Megan Armstrong in the Supervisor of Licenses Office.
So just these things that were just addressed for the drug test and the titles and stuff like that can be just be fixed, is what you said?
The administrative changes that were just mentioned by the Commissioner regarding their drug policy could be updated with Megan Armstrong.
Right.
The title information and vehicle information would be updated with the inspector.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Yes, thank you. So both of the issues that we just talked about, title in compared to insurance and then cleaning up the drug test policy could be an administrative fix later in the week. It wouldn't just necessarily mean it would affect what's in front of us today. Yes, sir.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
Is this a month-to-month policy? Do you pay for a
No,
month?
it's yearly.
I mean, but do you pay for it month-to-month?
Yes.
Okay. Question, Counselor. Can we, due to the history,
Yes.
can we request that his insurance company make the Oklahoma City Police Department a certificate holder? That way, if a payment is late or not made, that won't happen, I'm sure, but if that were to happen, to where Oklahoma City Police would be automatically notified.
Let me review the policy just one second.
Okay.
The city airport, as well as the city of Oklahoma City, are currently the certificate holders. And while the information presented is the address of the airport, the city of Oklahoma City's information could easily be provided to the insurance company.
Okay, if this is to be approved, I would want this specifically to go to the Oklahoma City Police Department, attention to the sergeant. And that is possible to do, to where if there are any problems, that he will be notified.
I'll make sure that he gets it every month.
Okay.
I've recently taken over the vehicle license part from licensing. They just do the business license, now I do the vehicle license, so I have access to that database to pull all that information off now.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am?
So in September, when the license was revoked, let's say it would have been suspended, what would have been that time frame, and was that up to our discretion to decide at that time? I mean, it could have been suspended for 6 months until items were corrected. I'm just kind of feeling like this is a little, there were fraudulent documents presented, insurance. Manipulated documents. Doesn't feel very
Well,
good.
I think
So I'm kind of wondering
I
if,
think what happened is, before we got to that point to decide how long, and that the applicant volunteered to
Withdrew.
revoke.
Okay.
That they want that, and we said, oh, so you're okay with the revoke? And they said yes, and then we all decided to do that, compared to figuring out how long and to suspend or whatever.
I think what would have tripped me up at that moment is if I would have known, because presenting documents that are sort of intended to mislead feels like there should be some sort of, I don't know, it was revoked. There was an accountability to that. And I guess had I have known at that time that revoking means you just come and reopen your business under the same name, and there's really not an accountability for presenting
Well,
documents
if
that were
I may add,
not.
wasn't there a fine or some actual tickets or something, wasn't there?
I did issue 15 citations to the company.
Which is a completely different,
Correct.
separate part of a criminal activity versus
Correct.
administrative.
Correct, but there was some action taken.
Not on behalf of the commission or.
Not by the commission, that's right.
Not in conjunction with the revocation of the license.
No, it was before, prior to, correct. So I'm just saying, just
Okay.
in general, that there, at the point where it was found out, there was some items done, and it just wasn't us. Correct.
Okay. I guess I'm just wanting to really feel like that we're going to be on the right path, and we're going to be on the up and up, and we're going to
Every
be
month,
operating
yeah.
appropriately and within the,
Like he has mentioned, I will make sure he gets every month-to-month list of everything, as we've been doing, but it will have the insurance on it now, so we should have no hiccups.
Okay. Anything else on this item? Let me go back to Commissioner Schuline. You still have the motion to disapprove. That's what's on the table, and second by Commissioner Hale. So, any changes in the motion that's in front of us? Okay, so we have a motion to disapprove item 5A from Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner Hale. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, so the motion is disapproved. Well, the motion is approved to disapprove. Correct. Okay, the motion is approved, which is item 5A is disapproved. Now, for the applicant here, if you wish to submit, again, I think you just need to make sure it's very clear the vehicles that you have, the insurance, and make sure everything is just right before it comes in.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right. Sir?
Any more questions, sir?
One second.
No, just a statement. I mean,
Yes.
I don't think anyone here has any problem other than just whatever is insured, make sure that it comes before us that way. I mean, to where we don't have this title, but yet it's not part of the document.
Title was a requirement, though, Only thing was a requirement, we have 5 cars that are insured. And then he gets to decide if it's approved or not.
So if you could do the administrative cleanup that we talked about with the drug testing policy, make sure that all the titles are what is exactly what you want to insure and the vehicles you want to put into operation. And then there was a third one. Third administrative cleanup. No, I'm sorry.
So we are, by the application, we're not, they don't have to submit that schedule of, because on the certificate, there is the box is checked scheduled autos. And what Commissioner just looked at was the schedule and found an inconsistency between the schedule and the vehicles that the applicant submitted. So it seems to me that if we just had 5 vehicles submitted and a schedule that matched, we wouldn't have wasted the last 45 minutes.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Thank you, sir. Here we go on now to item 5B. RNS Transportation Service, LLC, doing business as OKC Twister Cab, to consider an application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity from RNS Transportation Service, LLC, doing business as OKC Twister Cab, to operate 100 vehicles in taxi service. I think, Carl, you're the only one that wishes to speak on this item. So if you could come on up, your name and address again, and you have up to 5 minutes.
My name is Carl Gaskins. My address is 1424 Northwest 28th Street. I looked at the documents that they submitted for this company, and I've looked at the fares that they laid out. Okay, the city has a requirement that companies service the entire city. It's not just a game of sitting at the airport and taking whatever comes out of the airport. They've got to go out and service the city. They're showing that they're going to be charging a $1 startup, which is incredibly low. Nobody runs it that low anymore. But then 50 cents for 1/7 of a mile. That comes out to $3.50 a mile. And then in addition to the high rate of $3.50 a mile, they're putting a minimum $20 charge on any ride, whether you go 1 block or whatever, according to what I'm reading there. And they're wanting a minimum $20. It would appear that they're doing this to scare away any street business so they don't have to service the city, that their intention is to just sit at the airport. And we don't need another company that's just going to sit at the airport. If you're going to do it, do the whole everything. Service the city, follow the requirements. And my opinion is that on that, for the Twister taxi, that they don't have an intention of servicing the city. They're trying to drive away that business. And also keep in mind, even if they were to venture into Bricktown and look for flags, somebody's going to flag a cab, they're not going to want to go from Bricktown to the Sheraton Hotel and get hit with a $20 minimum. I think that's just totally unreasonable. That should be considered before you guys approve this. And also, I know green was not approved, but these cars are going to be primarily green, it looks like, and it would cause a conflict somewhere between the companies, and that's something to consider also. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, can we have staff input, please?
Okay, you've got a completed application for you. The one thing that's unusual about this particular application is they'd submitted 2 different color schemes. They did indicate that they had a preference to the first scheme that they provided, which was a predominantly green vehicle with blue accents on the hood, the trunk. Other than that, we've got a complete application, and staff would recommend approval as submitted.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion concerning item 5B?
I'll move for approval.
We have a motion to approve item 5B from Commissioner Witcher. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Commissioner White. Do we have any discussion?
I just want to make sure that the motion to approve would include the applicant's preferred color scheme.
Yes. Motion to approve with the applicant's preferred color scheme.
And Commissioner White, second on that. Okay, thank you. Do we have any discussion on item 5B?
One thing I appreciate, Carl, kind of studying these things and knowing from the perspective of a professional working in the field what the practical ramifications are. However, the reason that we require the fare fees to be posted on the car is so that the consumer walks into it aware and understands. I hope everybody gets it that you guys are going to charge them an arm and a leg to go a mile. But it feels like the application is in order. And that
If I could just have somebody come up and represent, sir, if you just wait a second, can I have your name and your address, please?
Riyasat Suzon, 5007 Northwest 20th, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Okay, and then make sure to fill out a green form when you're done.
Okay.
So my question off of this is, as I read your application, the $20 minimum is only when you leave the airport. Is that correct?
No, sir. It's quite actually normal for every company. You can call Thundercab, ask them, call them, how much they charge to go to a Mustang, one house to just a Walmart and back, how much they charge for minimum Thundercab, which is Carl has mentioned. They also have minimum. Every cab company has minimum. They just don't advertise it on their car. We are going to advertise it, which will draw attention to the drivers. More drivers will join our company. That's the only reason we're putting it there. But it's always there. From airport to anywhere you go, mile down the street, they charge $20. Every company is applying for it. Now it's there.
Okay, so on the application, when you have the $20 minimum on the right side under the Will Rogers Airport, you're saying that applies?
No, that's not my application. You guys are looking at the OKC Green Taxi's application. That's not mine. Yeah, that's wrong.
Okay, no, that's fine. We'll look here in just a second.
Yeah, there's mine.
Okay, there you go. Thank you. So here's your flag fee, quarter mile, wait time, passengers, minimum anywhere, $20. Okay? And that'll be posted on your vehicle.
That will be posted on my vehicle. Most of the other companies don't post that on their vehicle, but they all have minimums for certain cities. More, Mustang, Yukon, anywhere you go, they have minimum. Even Thundercabs, they do too. He just didn't mention that.
Now, hold on a second. Anybody else have any questions for the applicant? Okay, so any other talk on item 5B? Thank you very much, sir. You can go sit down. Carl, if you want to come back up real quick.
Just clarification on the minimum fee. Their minimum is anywhere. That's Oklahoma City and everywhere. Most other companies, if they have a minimum, and you did mention we have one, it's for other cities. We do not have any minimums inside Oklahoma City. These are based on the idea that our core business is Oklahoma City. That's where we're approved. If we're expected to drive some long distance to El Reno or Yukon or somewhere, then we're going to have to make sure that the driver is compensated for making that trip out there. And in all cases, with us anyway, if they come back into the city, minimums don't apply. So using that as an argument that it's perfectly fine to use that all over Oklahoma City, including short distances in Bricktown, I think it's just a red herring. It's trying to distract somebody. But it's not a good thing to have that kind of a minimum. And if they were, maybe have it a lot bigger than that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Come on up.
He has mentioned a about the minimum from Bricktown anywhere. A lot of people, the driver do have a choice. Anytime they're going a short run, they can charge customer lesser prices. Up to the driver. They could either charge the minimum, whatever it says, or use a discount, which that's what we will use in our advertising, that we will give a lot of discounts and stuff. It will be there. And as far as the $3.50 he mentioned earlier, that it's going to be expensive, most company charges flag-free $3. We're charging only $1. That's cheaper than a Yellow Cab, which is one of the biggest company in here. And that's going to save customers $2 right off the bat. Most customer doesn't look at that 1/7 of a mile, 50 cents. They always look at the first line, what it says. And our company is going to save $1 fee.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so any other questions? Oh, yes, ma'am?
The companies have a posted rate for a reason, which is to charge the customer the posted rate. To not charge the posted rate is...
No, but it is discount, it's up to the driver. All company does, when you go to long distance, like for say, if you pick up somebody at Will Rogers Airport, take him to Fort Sill, you never charge them full rate. Customers will not pay you. They don't usually. Most cab drivers goes for a flat rate. They just don't tell you. They just doesn't advertise it on the cabs. But every cab company does it. Nobody's going to pay you $200-300 to go to Fort Sill from Will Rogers, which that's what it will boil down to if you add it up on the miles. Customers only going to pay you $120 because that's what Shuttles, Airport Express, a lot of other company charges. To beat their price, that's what we'll have to do.
Well, I think what the concern here by the counselor is,
Yes.
and now my concern, is when we're talking about taxi cabs,
Right.
we have posted limits and we have meter runs.
Right.
That's how a cab works.
Right.
A limo can get into deals, working deals. They have a posted amount. They call up, how about this? They can work deals. My concern is if it's on the clock, on the meter,
Right.
it has to be paid what's on the meter. So if you have a $20 minimum plus your actual pickup charge, $21 is to start.
Right.
And if you're just going to go a block, it's a block plus the 0.7 or the 1/7 of a mile, and that comes out to your cost on the meter.
Right.
And so I think the concern here is to make sure you as an owner of a cab company understands what we expect as up here is if you're a taxi service, you run the meter on all calls.
We do.
And these fees are loaded into the meter.
Right.
And the customer knows to pay that amount when it's done.
Right. Well, we do, but most of the time the customer don't though. I could enforce that. Regardless I enforce it, it's always boiled down to the drivers. They're going to do what they're going to do. When they drive, take a passenger somewhere, the meter is run all the time. Anywhere they go, meter is on the time.
So my point to that is I understand they're an independent contractor.
Right.
That's the way that it's done now. They don't work for the company. But they are working off of your license and your agreement with the city on how you would be operating.
Right.
So I would counsel back of you need to make sure your drivers understand what is expected from the city, which is the meter's on, any preloads are loaded into the system, you stop, you get out, you hit the button, there's your price.
Okay.
I think that's what we expect from a taxi cab.
Right.
If you're talking about a black limo or something of that nature where you want to go that far and you work a deal to have a car pick you up, that might be different. But for taxis, I think we're thinking that. So just want to make sure you don't get yourself in a trick and your drivers in a trick if enforcement comes out and sees something different. I just want to make sure.
Okay, no problem.
Counsel, am I right kind of on that? Okay, good. All right, so, yes, ma'am.
So really, the flag fee is $21.
Right, because right off the bat, when you get in the vehicle, it should pop up $21. Because
No, it's going to pop up $1. If you go less than minimum, wherever you're going, if the meter does not say $20, if it's less than
Oh, okay.
$20, it will be $20. No, it's the flag fee is only $1. When you get in the cab, it's going to say $1 when the meter starts.
Okay.
When will it, how far do you have to go? More than 1/7 of a mile? And then the $20 comes in?
No. The $20 is the minimum. What that means is if you go, just like every other company does, if you go only a mile, it's going to show $5, $6. Well, that's still going to be $20. If the meter shows $5, $6, it's still going to be $20. That's why the minimum price is $20 there. So when you pick up
So the
somebody...
meter's going to show $5 or $6, but you're going to ask me for $25 or $26.
$20 minimum. That's what every
I tell you what, if you picked me up and that is what you told me, I would be very unhappy with you. That would...
That's
But it's on the vehicle.
That's what it's on.
Well, it's on the vehicle in cab speak, not in general population speak, because that is not what that would tell me right there.
That's on almost every cab is charging these days. If you go to the
Okay,
airport...
Sergeant, yes, but let's go back to, he sees all the cars.
I am local. I don't take cabs. But I tell you what, I feel like if I were in another city and I saw flag fee is $1 and then I'm going to look at my meter, when you go sticking 20 more bucks on me, I am not going to be happy about it. I'm just saying. Doesn't change probably anything we're doing here, but I think that I would not be happy with you at all.
All right, Sergeant?
The $20 minimum has been a trend at the airport. That's what the trend has been going at all the cab companies and shuttle companies besides Airport Express have went to $20 minimal from the airport stuff. This is the first I've seen as for them trying to do $20 minimal anywhere in the city. So stuff's been changing.
So like when we were looking at the other applicant, the actual previous one, and they had that $20 minimum on the airport side, that's what you see out there from all the different companies.
Correct, and they have been posting it on their vehicles or inside the vehicles.
Right. But what you're seeing is if it's within the city limits, as Carl was talking about, it's the normal dollar pickup, meter run, it's a $3, $4, 2-3 block move, you pay the $2-3
On the meter.
$3 and you go. But for this company, they would charge a $20 minimum.
From what I'm seeing, yes.
Okay. So now let me go back to the things that we certify, and when this comes upon here, the things that we vote on, we do not dictate fare up here. Would they just, they present a fare just so it's on the record, and then they can at any time go and change that fare as they want without us even knowing it. So I would be careful that we don't get into the fare business up here. Counsel, am I right on that? I mean, we're not really, or do we have an input on fare?
The fare is being presented to you for the consumer's information. However, the way this is presented may be confusing for your consumer, as the commissioner has pointed out, and maybe taken into account when you reflect on this. However, I think that was what the commissioner was going towards, is the consumer's concerns instead of not what the company can and cannot charge.
Okay.
It's my point. Here's the beauty about the marketplace. You will learn if this is well received or not by those who use your service. And it will either work for you or not. And when someone is surprised with $20, they may not be a repeat customer. They may file complaints. That will work itself out. So we're not the fare police, I get it. Your customers will help you learn about that. So I think that's where I'm going.
Okay. Any other discussion on item 5B? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5B from Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner White. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Thank you. Okay, we go on now to item 5C from Traffic Management Division to consider a request to change the speed limit on North Pennsylvania Avenue between West Hefner Road and Northwest 150th Street from 45 to 40 miles per hour, and 2, change the speed limit on North Pennsylvania Avenue from Northwest 164th Street to Northwest 178th Street from 45 miles per hour to 40 miles per hour. Sir, I guess you're the applicant.
All right. Well, at the end of the September meeting, Commissioner Miller requested staff take a look and review the posted speed limits on Pennsylvania Avenue because we had brought attention to that when we were considering a traffic signal that had been requested at Northwest 169th and Penn, and the only reason why that particular intersection met any traffic signal consideration warrants was due to the posted 45-mile-an-hour limit. Now, that particular mile of Pennsylvania is kind of orphaned in as much as the mile to the north and to the south were posted at a lower limit. When we looked at the entire Pennsylvania Avenue corridor going from the city's northern corporate limits, which were a half-mile north of 192nd Street, down to Hefner Road, where Oklahoma City meets the city of the Village. In the Village, it's posted 35. Outside of Oklahoma City's corporate limits, it's posted 40. And in between those 2 points, there's a mixture of postings of 40 and 45. In this particular area, given the level of urbanization, number of traffic signals and driveways, we believed it was best to set a consistent speed limit on Penn. And for that reason, we are presenting an item to normalize the speed limit on Penn to be a consistent 40 miles an hour starting at Hefner Road and proceeding north to the city's northern corporate limits.
All right. Thank you very much. Do we have a motion concerning item 5C?
I move approval.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Witcher,
Second.
second by Commissioner Hale. Any discussions on item 5C? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5C from Commissioner Witcher, second by Commissioner Hale. Votes, please. Okay, item is approved. We go on now to item 5D. Stephen K. Morris, President and CFO, Gardner Holdings, to consider a request to, 1, remove 1-hour metered parking on the east side of North Harvey Avenue from Park Avenue to approximately 225 feet north of the north curb line of Park Avenue. 2, to establish a full-time commercial loading zone on the east side of North Harvey Avenue from approximately 50 feet north to 94 feet north of the north curb line of Park Avenue. And 3, establish a full-time 15-minute time-limited parking space on the east side of North Harvey Avenue from approximately 94 feet north to 116 feet north of the north curb line of Park Avenue. We have somebody here to speak on this item. We have 2 people to speak on this item, so one at a time. If I could have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Sure. I'm Cindy Morello with Gardner Tannenbaum. Address is 211 North Robinson, right next door to the property location.
Eric Gummerson, 211 North Robinson.
Just one small correction. It stated, I believe, the removal of a 1-hour parking meter. There is not a 1-hour parking meter there presently. We're asking for the reinstallation of a 15-minute parking spot where there once was prior to the Project 180. And the second portion is installation of a full-time commercial loading zone. And this is directly in front of the entry of our property there located at 200 North Harvey. It's the Park Harvey apartment building.
Staff?
Okay, I'll just to make sure that we're all on the same page. That's the way the item is written. The reason why it's written for calling for the removal of metered parking is when the city staff passed an ordinance that set new metered parking rates for the downtown area using the multimeters. It identified a number of streets where metered parking is supposed to go in. And in this particular case, currently, Harvey Avenue on the east side is approved for 1-hour metered parking. So in order to amend that ordinance and get rid of that, that's the reason why it's written like that, even though there aren't any meters there today.
Oh.
Had you not come in with an application upon completion of that project, there would have been a meter there.
Understood.
Okay, but other than that, so item 1, 2, and 3 are fine with what you want?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have anything else you'd like to say?
That's it. We're just
Very good.
asking for your approval.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Staff input?
Okay, well, you've got all our comments here before you. We did find a picture that was taken in the fall of last year that did show that there had been a 15-minute time-limited parking zone that was in place there. What the applicant is seeking to do is, rather than the city installing 1-hour multimeters upon completion of the Project 180 work on Harvey Avenue, they're wanting to set aside 2 spaces for use as a full-time commercial loading zone, and then 1 space just 15-minute time-limited parking, and both zones would be freely available for use by the public. So action on the item would be at the discretion of the commission.
We have a motion concerning item 5D.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the applicant's request with the following provision included by staff, that the commercial loading zone will be in effect on a full-time basis, and the 15-minute time-limited parking space will be in effect on a full-time basis.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Schuline to approve item 5D to include the 2 staff recommendations. Am I correct? The 2 staff recommendations. Do we have a second on that item?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Yonkel. Any discussion on item 5D? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5D from Commissioner Schuline with the 2 staff recommendations, seconded by Commissioner Yonkel. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Okay, we go on now to item 5E. Staff input on 5E. Do we have any? Is this the one we have staff input?
All right. On item 5E, the applicant contacted us today. They request that the commission strike this item from consideration at this time.
Okay. Do we have a motion concerning item 5E?
Mr. Chairman, I move we strike agenda item 5E.
We have a motion from Commissioner Schuline to strike it.
I'll second.
We have a second by Commissioner Witcher. Any discussion on 5E? Okay, a motion to strike item 5E from Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner Witcher. Vote, please. Okay, item is approved. Okay, we now go on to 5F. Brent Holman, President, Ellis Manufacturing Company, Inc., consider request to, 1, establish 90-degree angle parking within a proposed on-street parking area on the west side of North Cooper Avenue from approximately 948 feet south to 996 feet south of the south curb line of Northwest 50th Street. 2, authorize 90-degree angle parking within an existing on-street parking area on the west side of North Cooper Avenue from approximately 872 feet south to 948 feet south of the south curb line of Northwest 50th Street. And 3, establish 1 reserved parking space for the physically disabled on the west side of North Cooper Avenue from approximately 90 feet south to 900 feet south to 917 feet south of the south curb line of Northwest 50th Street, adjacent to 4803 North Cooper Avenue. Do we have anybody here to speak on this item? Yes, sir. If I can have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Brent Hombo, 4803 North Cooper. Currently Ellis Manufacturing. I'm vice president currently and one of the owners. We're trying to get 5 extra parking spaces. We currently have 9 parking spaces, and people have to park in the street. So we have about 20 people that work there now, and we're trying to get 5 extra places, including a handicap area, which will take up 2 of the places from our 9 original places. So we don't have anybody there that is handicapped, but it'll take up 2 extra places, including the ramp. So we're asking that we get approved on 5 more places, 90-degree parking.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Okay, staff input.
Okay, this item actually has its origins in a request that the applicant had made to the Board of Adjustment. One of the stipulations made by the board was submitting the item for additional on-street angle parking for the approval of the Traffic and Transportation Commission. In this particular case, they're seeking to expand 90-degree inside angle parking on the west side of Cooper Avenue. It's a fairly wide street. It'd be able to accommodate the maneuvering room needed to back in and out of a 90-degree parking space. Staff's only recommendation that if approved, that they would need to dedicate either public right-of-way or a roadway easement sufficient to cover the limits of the parking spaces proposed and the existing ones. And the reason for this is because in order to sign and regulate them, the city they would have to be in an easement where the city could actually place signs and be able to enforce it. And one of the other requirements for putting in inside angle parking is that they would need to build sidewalks, at least a 5-foot sidewalk across the the head of the parking stalls, and they've got that proposed on their construction plan. So with those recommendations, staff would recommend approval of the request.
Okay, just to clarify, the sidewalk part is part of their...
Yes.
And how about the easement? Has that already been approved by them?
No, they would have to dedicate that subsequently.
Sir?
That would come later.
Is this easement thing okay?
Yes, I have 4 letters. One's from OG&E, ONG, Cox Cable, and AT&T, and they all approved it with, as long as we notify the Call Okie people to find out where all the lines are, and if they need to get in there someday, I believe it says here that they can tear up the parking lot if they want
Right, that's
to.
what easement would say.
Right.
But are you okay with giving the city the easement, I believe?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, so item 5F, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the request and include the staff's recommendations.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Miller to approve item 5F with the 2 staff recommendations. We have a second.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner White. Any discussion? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5F from Commissioner Miller to include the 2 staff recommendations, seconded by Commissioner White. Votes, please. Okay, item is approved. We all go on to 5G. Sue the Villiers and Traffic Management Division consider a request to change the speed limit on East Britton Road between North Kelly Avenue and Northeastern Avenue from 50 miles per hour to 45 miles per hour. 2, change the speed limit on East Britton Road between Northeastern Avenue and North Bryant Avenue from 50 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour. And 3, change the speed limit on East Britton Road between North Bryant Avenue and North Coltrane Road from 50 miles per hour to 45 miles per hour. Anybody here to speak on item 5G? Staff input.
All right, you've got a request here. The applicant had requested a speed limit reduction to 35 miles an hour. When we looked at the overall area, this is another area where we have 45-mile-an-hour speed limits posted at either end. This is also a portion where Britton Road has been curbed, and typically speaking, on a curbed section of roadway, we use a 45-mile-an-hour limit. So this is one of those roadways that has been widened and improved over time, but the speed limit has not been adjusted. Now you will see that the prevailing 85th percentile speed traveled on this road does run higher than the staff recommended 45 and much higher than the applicant's requested 35. However, in this particular case, 45 is probably the best fit for the area. By lowering it, we'll get all the intersections along this particular corridor in compliance with our sight distance requirements. That's except for one. There's one location that's at, pull up, get my aerial here, at Henley Avenue, which we don't have sufficient decision sight distance available there to meet the posted speed limit of 45. However, it's one of those locations where, you'll often come across roadways where there will be a location, whether it's a driveway or a street, and there are just at times when you will not be able to make sight distance at various locations. To reduce the speed limit further to accommodate this one particular situation would result in a speed limit that would be substantially below the 85th percentile speed and the speed that we're recommending in this particular case. To approve this item, what you would be doing is you'd be creating a consistent speed on Britton Road from the Broadway extension to the eastern city limits. So staff would recommend approval of the item to reduce the speed limit from 50 to 45 miles an hour on Britton Road.
Which would be a modification of item 2.
Yes, it would actually be doing less than what was requested in Part 2 of the request. So reducing it to 45 is well within your abilities.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Correct.
So the staff input is to modify sub-item 2 to 45 miles an hour.
Yes.
So all three would be 45 miles an hour. Okay. All right. So do we have a motion concerning item 5G?
I make the motion to establish the speed limit at 45 as recommended by the staff.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Miller to approve item 5G with the staff recommendation. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5G from Commissioner Miller with staff recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. We go on to 5H. From the Oklahoma City Police Department to consider a recommendation to the Oklahoma City Council on an ordinance amending Article 1 of Chapter 56, Motor Vehicle for Hire and Other Transportation Services of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code 210, amending Section 5629, revocation or suspension of certificate, business license, and grounds therefore, notice, hearing, appeal to License Appeal Board, Section 5640, record-keeping requirements of the certificate license holders, and Section 5683, revocation and suspension of a driver's permit generally, notice, hearing, requirements upon reapplication, all alternatives to suspension, revocation. Yes, thank you. Who's going to speak for the Oklahoma City Police Department?
I can quickly
Counselor?
explain if you. So for the first amendment would be 5629 regarding the revocation or suspension of a certificate business license. As we discussed at the last meeting, this had an unintended consequence upon the drivers. If a license is revoked, according to the current ordinance, the driver's license permit would be revoked. However, in the driver's revocation permit provision, it states that that revocation for the driver would last for a year. That same restriction is not placed upon the company, so we wanted to amend this in order to stop that from occurring, and in doing so, the permit would be deemed invalid until the driver either moves their permit to another company or they receive a valid endorsement from the revoked or suspended company after they are granted their license back or after the suspension is lifted. So that is the first amendment that is mentioned in 5629. Any questions before I go to the second? Okay. On 5640, this actually is updating the language to distinguish what occurs if the records are not provided. The records are first to be produced during regular business hours to the inspector. So that's the First Amendment. The second sentence that it's amended states that the licensee, if the licensee refuses, then the chief of police or designee, the inspector, could bring a revocation or suspension proceeding to the Traffic Commission. And the Traffic Commission can review what the fact situation is of why the licensee is refusing and can proceed to either deny the suspension, suspend, deny revocation, or revoke. Then the last states that while the failure to provide the documents or records is not a criminal offense, the failure to keep the records will still be a criminal offense. So they still are required to keep them. However, the refusal to produce them is not a criminal offense. It will come before you as an administrative situation. Any questions of that? Okay. Then the final 5683 is the simplest, I promise, and it actually is just striking number 13 as a reason for the driver's permit to be revoked or suspended, basically just cleaning house on the previous amendment, which was 5629, and creating an invalid permit and not revoking or suspending. So, any questions? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion concerning item 5H?
I'll move approval.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Witcher. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5H by Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Comments from citizens? Anybody wishing to speak? Okay, staff and other items. Let's go ahead and go through. Let's go to the commissioners first.
Nothing to report, sir.
Nothing from Commissioner Witcher. Commissioner White.
Nothing to report, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Hale.
I don't know the protocol, but it would be most helpful to me whenever we have people come before us and ask to be licensed as a cab. The second case we heard today, they provided a certificate of insurance and it just said scheduled vehicles. They did not provide any titles. There was no verification of exactly what they were insuring. I think for clarification and for a level playing field, if they will bring that certificate and a list of insured vehicles, that would get rid of a lot of this confusion. We had a guy leave here today saying, well, but wait, I've got 5 vehicles insured. Okay, well, yeah, but it's not the right 5. I believe we need a certificate of insurance saying, yes, that is in place, and yes, this is a list of the vehicles currently. If that changes through time by adding and removing drivers or cabs, that's fine. But at some point in time, we need to say, as of this date, this is what is covered. And I don't know the protocol, how to approach that, but I would strongly recommend that just for future reference, that be part of the package. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Over to Commissioner Schuline.
Nothing to report, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Over to Commissioner Miller.
Nothing, sir.
Commissioner Yonkel.
Just briefly, I would like to ask for maybe a little assistance from staff. Do we have pictures that I sent in of guardrails, Hefner Road?
Yes.
Let's back up. That looks like probably picture number 5. That's probably number 4. Is this picture number 1? So here, we'll make this as quick as possible. East Hefner Road, 2 years ago, it received federal funding for repaving. When you receive, and I am sure I'm not going to get this exactly right, but this is the story as abbreviated as possible. When you accept federal funding on paving initiatives, there's a plan that comes with it. Guardrails can be part of that. So, and the paving occurred between, so on Hefner Road, East Hefner Road, between Midwest Boulevard, west to Broadway. So the paving occurred about 2 years ago. The guardrails, the guardrail portion of the project, I don't know if there's more to come after guardrails or not, went and started going into effect probably 45 days ago or so. Started out west, moved out east. Hefner Road is a very unique situation in that the land uses around Hefner create some real challenges with sharing. It's also part of the Red Bud race. We've got a lot of recreational and competitive cycling that happens on this road. It's got some real unique challenges with vegetation, road management, ditch management, the grade, the steepness off the sides of the pavements. We oftentimes have to use those white lines as driving spaces because these roads are very difficult to share. So we've got 5, I don't want to call them, they're commercial entities, whether temporary or permanent businesses that use large haulers. These are sand haulers, agricultural haulers, farm equipment, landscaping equipment, things that take up at least their lane, sometimes more than their lane. So we're already having sharing challenges on on Hefner Road. The terrain is also, there's hills, there's shadows that make bicyclists invisible. In the brightest of day, a bicyclist is as invisible as you can get in the darkest shadows in the brightest of days. It's a very strange phenomenon. So then bring in guardrails. Now, the guardrails, I believe, ideally, in my unengineering background, is supposed to be ideally about 24 inches off the pavement's edge. Well, when you then have a guardrail mandate that says you got to have them there, and you've got cables, communication cables, all sorts of cables under the line, you got to mark your cables, you got to find a spot to plant your guardrails. Sometimes you can see guardrails actually go over the white line. And this, I call it this an approach symbol. I don't know the right terminology. When this guardrail on East Hefner Road between Middles Boulevard and Air Depot was put in, that little yellow and black symbol, it's like the approach warning, it was actually 1 inch into the lane. So what happens with all that commercial vehicles that we're already struggling to share on this road, they then have to drive down the middle of the road to not hit guardrails. Well, when I saw, and so this is me, I actually took my little piece of yarn and my little weight and I dropped it off the edges of those guardrails. The guardrail, the part that would actually come in contact with your vehicle, was 1 inch off the white line. So, but the approach symbol was 1 inch into the traffic lane. So I thought, you know what, let's see what this big hauler does, because the guardrails had just been completed. So sure enough, he has to avoid that approach symbol, he's having to drive down the middle. So then you got other haulers coming the other way, you got bicyclists. My point is, we have some real challenges here. So, you know, you're starting to get to know me. I started making some phone calls because I felt like we had some real safety concerns. I mean, the guardrails right off the road creates this imposed feeling that you got to get in the middle of the road so you don't hit it. You're already feeling encroachment. Well, so I fortunately, through my phone calls, got the name of some folks at ODOT, because the state is like the conduit to making the federal program happen. And I in fact, there's gentlemen out there who flag the traffic when the guardrails are going in. They flag you whether you can go or not. And so I pulled up to the guy with the flag and the stop sign. I said, "Who makes the decision on just how close these go?" And he said, "You mean that one back there?" Because he knew where I was going with it. And I said, "Yeah, I mean that one back there." He goes, "Well, there were cables. You know, we had to work around cables, underground cables, etc." I get a hold of a wonderful gentleman at ODOT who says, "I know we've got a situation out there. We're going to be working on it." Within a day or two, that yellow and black kind of approach symbol, somehow they'd either changed it, put a new one on, bent it, or something. It's now a couple inches off the road, so we got that going for us. There are folks that take this stretch all day. I know I'm not the only voice in it, that are pushing to get these guardrails. So go forward a couple pictures. Let me show you what the ideal one. Now this is the south side of the street where you just saw, over here on the north side, to the left is the north. This is, a lot of the guardrails are positioned about this far off the road. Seems reasonable. You know, it seems a little more reasonable. When it's 1 inch off the off the white line, doesn't feel as reasonable. When you're navigating through, you know, all these haulers and bicycles and joggers and massive equipment and demolition vehicles. It's nonstop on this stretch all day long. So my request, if there's anything that the city can do to just inquire, because not all the guardrails have this 1-inch proximity to the lane. A lot of them are a couple feet back. That's not, although I personally don't love them, because there are so many near misses on this road. I like to have a ditch to throw my car into when I'm having to avoid someone that's passing a bicycle on a hill. I happen to like to have a spot to go to, and which is why I originally came to you all a few years ago, was avoiding a head-on collision because someone passing a bicyclist on a hill still goes on all day long. But I don't, and I did send I sent pictures and a pleasant, really I am pleasant, I'm not trying to be unfriendly about it, but I feel like we got a safety situation. Sent it to Eric Wenger's office, he's aware of it. They've got folks that are, I just want to call in as many troops as possible to help us keep an eye that we are not going to be living long-term with guardrails that are 1 inch off the road when we have haulers all day long, bicyclist activity. I call them the executive cyclist. The professionals train on this road. There's a lot of opinions around that. We need it to be as shareable as possible. I, as a driver on it, don't want to have to meet. And I've had people, in fact, in the neighborhoods, I have relatives that live in a neighborhood right, you could throw a rock from the picture here, basically into their neighborhood. And they've called me and said, are you looking into these guardrails? Because they know I'm a phone caller, question asker. And I said, I'm doing my best, because there's a lot of people with significant concern on this. I don't know what the staff could do, if anything, if you can, because it is in the city. The city does want safe streets, and I feel like we have a few sections of guardrails. This is one of them on the north side. There are at least 2 others that are almost as close, just inches off the white line. It's a problem. I am not a traffic engineer, though, but I am a user of that road, and I know what we face every single day, and guardrails 1 inch off the road is not ideal. Where do we go with that?
Well, you've mentioned you visited with the Public Works Director. No one from my staff has been out there to take a look at this yet. We will go out there if we do find areas where the guardrail clearly needs to be moved back off the road to provide a little bit more clear space, especially to keep vehicles within their lanes as opposed to feeling like they're crowded out of them, so they're starting to encroach over the center line. We'll work with the state and their contractor to make adjustments to get the guardrails set back.
And if that would be wonderful. There may, if these things can't move and far enough away, we may even need to look at speeds through here. Although they're 45, we are 1 mile from Britain. This is, although posted 45, this is not a 45-mile-an-hour stretch. It can be oftentimes 60 plus, and I'm not making that up. It's a thoroughfare. So whatever we need to do would be really appreciated.
All right. Thank you very much. LT, do you have something?
Yeah, just real quick. I'm going to be going to records starting Friday. I'm actually going to be over permits and IDs, so Lieutenant Witten will take over my responsibilities here. It's been a great experience, I'll tell you that much. I really enjoyed being up here, part of the board, and I really know what you guys do in relation to just our ordinances, our cab folks, our permits folks. It opened up a whole new world that I didn't know existed. So thank you very much, and Dustin Witten will take over.
All right, thank you very much. Counselor, do you have anything? I'm
just going to tell the lieutenant now, Captain, congratulations.
Yeah, I forgot to say that. I got promoted. Yeah. It wasn't a voluntary deal.
Forcing you, huh? All right, so congratulations on that. Sir, do you have anything closing?
Okay, you've got our monthly report on the installation of yield and parking controls. That's summarized for you. We had also been asked to do basically a follow-up review of the installation of stop control, especially in residential areas, looking at their long-term effect on speed and collision experience. We picked a few locations where, when we reviewed the cases, the applicants had cited speeding, or the need for speed control as one of the reasons for pursuing stop control. So we've got 4 locations for you. What we did is we had 85th percentile speeds before, and we've gone out there and we've restudied them. The first location in question is on South Ross Avenue at Southwest 56th Street. This particular always stop configuration has been in place for 9 months now. We had an 85th percentile speed of 28 before. Our most current study showed that the 85th percentile speed is 29. Basically, it's running at the same speeds. Highest observed speed remained 32 both before and after the stop installations. Now, the speed reading is clearly not right at the intersection, but it's on the approach section, and we use the same approach section in both studies. Likewise, we did one over at Chartel and Southwest 5th Street. This one's been in place for 10 months now. You can see basically the 85th percentile speed is essentially unchanged. A 1 mile difference in the 85th percentile is not a statistically significant number. We did notice that the high speed had ticked up about 5 miles higher than our previous time that we had studied it. We've got another case on Bridle Drive at Northwest 197th Street. This is kind of an interesting case because there were 2 back-to-back T intersections where always stop controls were approved. In this particular case, the 1 year after installation, the 85th percentile speed had been 29, is now running 27. The highest observed speed, however, even though we've got 2 back-to-back always stops, still remain 34. And Pebblestone Parkway, which is now 3 years out from the time the commission had looked at it and had approved an always stop at Northwest 127th Street and Pebblestone Parkway, the 85th percentile speed before was 40. With the always stop measured in the same location, we've got an 85th percentile speed of 41. Mind you, this is posted 25. And previously, the high speed observed was 48. Our current observation showed it being 50. So I think, and with respect to collisions, there is really no change in collision history because most of these locations really didn't have a collision history to begin with. This is really more of an informational item. It kind of gives the commission a sense as to what happens in a bunch of residential intersections when applicants are pursuing stop controls as a means toward making their areas safer, and especially cutting down on a perceived speeding issue. You can see that so far. I mean, this is just a kind of a broad sampling. We had residential areas in the southwest portion of the city, one that's just south of downtown. We had a couple far northwest, one northwest and one far northwest, and basically the results of this sampling of intersection locations shows that the addition of stop control does not overall have a pronounced effect on driver behavior. So anyhow, happy to answer any questions you may have about this, entertain any comments, any other direction from the commission.
Okay, well, very good. It just goes along with what we read in the past, that stop signs are not speed controls, which goes into the work that we're doing on traffic calming. What are some ways that we can go into these established areas and slow people down? What are some of the solutions? And we know that stop control is not one of them. This just validates it. So we'll keep working on the traffic calming, and we know about new areas going up. We're asking planning to get involved and do traffic calming as they do the major roads through the neighborhoods to keep the speeds down. But what do we do in the established neighborhoods? And that's where we have our hard work. Does anybody have any other further comments? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Second, all in favor? All right, we're adjourned.